Okay, so you're gonna have a piece of paper that's about, I'm gonna wait. There's so much whispering, you guys, and it hurts my voice to have to yell over it. So you're gonna start with a piece of watercolor paper. You're gonna fold it into quarters so that you have 4 working sections, or 4 working areas, okay? And then these are wet on wet techniques, so you have to start with wet paint that is mostly paint and some water. You don't want this really, really watery or it doesn't work so well, okay? The first one I'm going to show you is that dibs and dabs technique where you're intentionally creating a bleed in your paint. This is awesome for fur and that kind of thing. So I'm going to start with lots of paint, and it needs to be really watery. Well, like really wet, okay? Because I'm going to dib and dab other colors into this, okay? So now I'm going to see what happens if I add some black paint and intentionally make that bleed. So I'm going to do that and let it spread. Yeah, I know. So now you get to do this on watercolor paper. Yeah. Okay. So now I'm going to add into that, maybe I'll add something. Yeah, some of you guys were experimenting with what happens when you do this in your water container. So now you're going to do it on your paper. Yeah. Okay. So just experiment with that and fuzzing that edge out. So you can create really fun effects. Okay? It kind of does. All right. So that one is dibs and dabs. The next one we're going to do is the salt. So you're going to have a small container of salt. This one, a little bit goes a long way. So I'm going to repeat that because there was some whispering. So with the salt technique, you get the best result when you use a little bit. You don't want to cover it completely. You want to sprinkle a tiny bit on. So again, you start with wet paint, and this, oh my goodness sakes. All right, this one is really great for scales, for fish and amphibians. This is a really, really nice technique for that. So I'm gonna mix a green for us, and I'm gonna cheat and I'm gonna mix it on the paper, but I want you guys to mix yours on your palette, okay? And so let's pretend that I've got a frog or a fish or something like that, okay? I'm gonna pinch a tiny, tiny bit of salt and sprinkle it on here. And that is it. And then I'm gonna wait and let it dry. If you cover the whole thing with salt, it doesn't work. It's not gonna give you any effect, okay? So a little dab will do it. And then you get a really cool effect when it dries, okay? Okay, so next one I'm going to show you is called Q-tip removal, all right? So the Q-tip removal is just strategically removing some of the paint in certain spots and in different directions. Removal. Do you guys have a Q-tip at your table I can borrow? Oh, you know what? I have one right here. Perfect. All right. So this one is really subtle. So I'm going to show you the one that's finished so you can see. So, okay. This one's really great for shaggy, furred kinds of creatures. If you want to make it look kind of hairy and that kind of thing. So same thing. Lots of wet paint. This one shows up a little bit more when you use a darker color. So I'm going to create a brown by mixing brown into blue because that actually will give us a really unique color. Isn't that cool? All right, so then I'm gonna wipe the paint upward using my Q-tip, okay? Now this is also a really useful technique if you goof and you accidentally get paint in the wrong spot and you're like, ah, how did that happen? You can take a clean Q-tip and then gently erase. Okay, so here's the thing. Here's the thing. Anytime you use a scrubbing motion with watercolor paper, you have to be extremely careful not to overdo it or you will scrub a hole through your paper. So, yeah, it's a bummer. So, you use a clean, wet Q-tip and you just gently, 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 okay? Pretty sweet. Last but not least, we're gonna do saran wrap, okay? So, this is really cool for animals like rhinoceroses, things that are like more scaly, that have more of like a hide type of a thing, like a hippo or a rhino. Okay? All right. So I'm going to make a nice red-orange for us to try this one out.
It's cold.
Yeah.
It looks weird.
So here's the thing. All right, you're gonna tear off a piece of plastic wrap. I have a whole bunch of plastic wrap containers. You're gonna bunch it up and then you're going to kind of scrunch it and press it onto that wet paint and then you're gonna leave it alone. And then when it dries, you're gonna get a texture that's kind of like that. Isn't that cool? It's kind of a scaly sort of a texture, right? So, just like with the salt, you want to wait until it dries to touch it. You don't want to do anything with the salt while it's still wet, and you don't want to do anything with that plastic wrap until it is dry, okay? So you're going to do that, and then you're going to put your name on it, of course, because these are all going to look so similar. And you're going to want to leave some space either at the top or at the bottom to try mixing some browns. So let me show you some of the browns that I mixed and how I mixed them, okay? So now, here's the thing. You don't have to paint your animal brown just because it's normally brown in real life. So if you hate the color brown, but you happen to pick a horse, let's say, and it's brown, but you would really prefer your horse to be purple, then paint it purple. I don't care. It's up to you. Shh. However, if you would like to paint it more of a realistic color, if you look down here, I have a pure brown that comes in the container, brown mixed with yellow, brown mixed with white, brown mixed with blue, brown mixed with red, brown and black, and then this is a little bit of white and yellow and brown, okay? So that's 2, 4, 6, 7, okay? Lots of options if you want a realistic color, okay? So we're gonna do our practice. We're gonna put our name on it. It's gonna go on the drying rack, and then you're gonna start your animal using one of these 4 techniques, okay? Questions for me?